So here we go. The reading is on page 86 into action. Uh, when we retire at night, we constructively review our day. Were we resentful, selfish, dishonest, or afraid? Do we owe an apology? Have we kept something to ourselves which should have been discussed with another person at once? Were we kind and loving towards all? What could we have done better? Were we thinking of ourselves most of the time? Or were we thinking of what we could do for others? Of what we could pack into the stream of life? But we must be careful not to drift into worry, remorse, or morbid reflection, for that would diminish our usefulness to others. After making our review, we ask God's forgiveness and inquire what corrective measures should be taken. On awakening, let us think about the 24 hours ahead. We consider our plans for the day. Before we begin, we ask God to direct our thinking, especially asking that it be divorced from self-pity, dishonest, or self-seeking motives. Under these conditions, we can employ our mental faculties with assurance, for after all, God gave us brains to use. Our thought life will be placed on a much higher plane when our thinking is cleared of wrong motives. In thinking about our day, we may face indecision. We may not be able to determine which course to take. Here we ask God for inspiration, an intuitive thought, or a decision. We relax and take it easy. We don't struggle. We are often surprised how the right answers come after we have tried this for a while. What used to be a hunch or the occasional inspiration gradually becomes a working path of the mind. Being still inexperienced and having just made conscious contact with God, it is not probable that we are going to be inspired at all times. We might pay for this presumption in all sorts of absurd actions and ideas. Nevertheless, we find that our thinking will, as time passes, be more and more on the plane of inspiration. We come to rely on it. So, with that, I'll pass it over to you, Paul.
Well, thanks, Rich. And good morning, everybody, or wherever. Good evening, Paul. Very happy member of recovery. Yeah, this is the instructions concerning step 10 and stuff. I'm just going to read it and so when we retire at night, we constructively review our day. So this is, you do an inventory. Then there's all these questions you can ask yourself. Were we resentful, selfish, dishonest, or afraid? We're really recognizing manifestations of self in our life. Yes, there's that weird word again, self, in there. Where were we resentful, selfish, dishonest, or afraid? Do we owe an apology? In other words, do we need to make an amend? Have we kept something to ourselves which should be discussed with another person at once, like some of our great ideas? Yeah, it's good to run it by someone else before. Yeah. Were we kind and loving towards all? What could we have done better? Were we thinking of ourselves most of the time? Or were we thinking of what we could do for others, of what we could pack into the stream of life? But we must be careful. Now, this is important to me, but we must be careful not to drift into worry, remorse, or morbid reflection. You can go overboard in inventories and in self-investigation. It's a very fine line between knowledge of self and then self-obsession. It is. And many of us have experienced that or worked with people where you had to suggest to them not to do an inventory because they were just so self-centered, watching every move and trying to figure out what intention was behind turning left on Haight Street instead of right on Haight Street, something like that. So it can get a little bit crazy, but this is a beautiful design for living, especially in the beginning. Yeah. Yeah, because you're in basically, I feel these things are to keep you busy while the operation takes place. Yeah. You are not the operating doctor. You're the patient. So just like they would give anesthesia to a patient so that the business that's necessary won't be interrupted by their ideas and plans. The same way with the steps, it sends the self around the corner for a while, so the operation can continue, and you just have to realize, just stay on the table and don't play doctor, and just do these things until they become a part of you. I do not do this anymore as a program, like as a formality. Yeah. Because a lot of the reasons why I did them as a formality, which I did in the beginning, have been adjusted. Yeah. And I would feel uh, it just doesn't feel like it's necessary in most cases. First of all, I don't have resentment much. So I don't, because, like, I'll give you an example. Last night when I woke up, there was dreaming going on, and it was going on, it was doing a review, unasked for, involuntary review of my past relationships and pointing out to me where I was inconsiderate, selfish, yes, a lot of pride, and went over around 5 or 6 people again involuntarily. I just sort of came to, and it was going over this review. And what did I do? I just brought it to step 6 and 7. Yeah. I said, hey, I'm entirely ready to have this power take all this stuff that's being under review right now and do what it wants with it. Yeah. And then I woke up and came out and had a coffee. Now, and these other things is, uh, here we go. What happens if you pray every day uh, for God's direction? Aren't you going to have it sooner or later? Yeah. So if you feel like you're directed by this higher power, are you going to pray for its direction? I would think that would be doubting the fact that you're in that condition. Yes, that you are being directed. Why would I need to point it out that I need to pray to be directed if I'm in the act of being directed? This is what happened with here early on in the Zoom. One of our friends from the UK, we were sharing about this idea, and he was in the habit of saying the third step prayer, please relieve me of this bondage of self, every day. Yeah. And then when we were talking, he noticed that he was in the relief from the bondage of self. And him praying for it as, let's say, a future condition was a way of denying he was in the present tense condition. Yeah. This is a beautiful point that he's trying to get across here, which is, we got to be careful not to go into worry, remorse, or morbid reflection, because this would be the obsession with self. So there would be the investigation of self, and then suddenly it turns into an obsession with self-investigating itself. It's not healthy in a lot of ways. So this is why we need a sponsor and stuff, or a mentor, because he may have or she may have a view that we don't have at the moment. So, and then this was the way to practice a 24-hour situation. You know, when you retire at night and when you wake up in the morning. On awakening, let us think about the 24 hours ahead. I don't do that. I don't think about the half hour ahead. I don't think that much about this stuff. Yeah, I don't. I feel like I would, a lot of times when I was thinking about the future, I was in a certain fear right now that the future wasn't going to go well. I feel pretty confident I'm in good hands, so I don't think much about the day. So on awakening, let us think about the 24 hours ahead. Well, the beautiful thing in the 24 hours ahead, you're probably going to have about 9 hours of rest from this idea of self-thinking or whatever. So I some of the 24 hours ahead, I don't think at all about. I'm asleep, which is great. Yeah. So uh, before we begin, we ask God to direct our thinking. So this is what I was referring in a minute ago. I don't feel like I have to ask something that's already in place now. Yeah. So do you see how this is these are suggestions to start a new design for living or a way of life? But then when you're in the way of life, things change. Yeah. So you're not asking for a lot of these conditions because you're living from the conditions. It's good to have the eyes to see. It's sort of like wishing to be there and you're already here. Yeah. The there that you're hoping to get to is here now. What would that affect? You asking for that there, wouldn't it? Yeah. So we ask God to direct our thinking, especially asking that it be divorced from self-pity, dishonest, or self-seeking moments. I pretty much, yeah. Under these conditions, we can employ our mental faculties with assurance, for after all, God gave us brains to use. Yeah. Our thought life, thinking about a nut and bolt and thinking about how you may be like a nut and bolt are two different types of thought, yes? Think about the nut and bolt is in a process of fixing something. Yeah, going over that you're like a nut and bolt is just the fucking interpretation of it. Yeah. So this psychological sense of thinking is really where the burden lies. Certain people have jobs where they have to think certain things through. I was a house painter. I needed maybe 12 thoughts to do the job. Yeah. I never was surprised. There usually would be four walls and a ceiling, some trim, and the thoughts was, should I put one or two coats on, or when's break, and then where am I going to go for lunch? It was so. There was a study once in Australia when I was living over there. I don't know how true it is now, but they were sort of implying there was like 70,000 thoughts a day for a usual situation, 70 or maybe even 700,000. But let's say there's 70,000 thoughts a day. For me to do my job, there was about 9 thoughts necessary. Yeah. What are the other 69,901 thoughts doing? Yeah. They're usually about me. A lot of it going over and over with a fine tooth comb, why I should resent that person or whatever going on while I'm working. Yeah. So, yeah. It's great to be speaking from the remedy of this. Yeah. Yeah. So under these conditions, we can employ our mental faculties. All right. In thinking about our day, we may face indecision. We may not be able to determine which course to take. Here we ask God for inspiration or an intuitive thought or a decision, or you call up somebody like your sponsor. Yes. We relax and take it easy. Because why? We give up our managing or control of the situation. Yeah. We sort of surrender, and hopefully maybe you can start believing you're in good hands, but you are in good hands. You're going to find that out. Yeah? And so it's not going to be a difficult thing to be relaxed and taking it easy, because you're probably going to be in that state already. You're going to be relaxed and taking it easy with indecision. Because you've realized it doesn't really matter that much. What matters the most would be drinking or not drinking. But basically, a lot of other stuff, if you think you did something wrong, it can be corrected. Yes? Yeah. So it's not like the end of the world. So in thinking about our day, we may face indecision. Here we ask God for inspiration, an intuitive thought, or a decision. Now, do you have to keep asking God for inspiration, or has the inspiration been given? Isn't there a point when the inspiration has been given and it's become a new basis of your life, then it would be redundant to ask for it, yes? Maybe you would not ask for shit and you'd be in a sentence of gratitude and okayness, yeah? We relax and take it easy. We don't struggle. We are often surprised how the right answers come. And after we have tried this for a while, yes, you're going to have faith. Yes. So here you have faith in the head or self, and therefore you're surprised when this shit works. But are you surprised it works after 5 years? No, you're still amazed, but you're not surprised because it's been working for 5 years. We are often surprised how the right answers come after we have tried this for a while. Yeah, what happens if you try it for a while? It's probably going to turn into a habit, yes? And this is part of being in the habit of being sober. Yeah. What used to be the hunch or the occasional inspiration gradually becomes a working part of the mind. I hope many of us are in that aspect, yeah? Being still inexperienced and having just made conscious contact. So obviously, this is instruction and suggestions for the beginner who are entering this process of losing faith in self and gaining faith in whatever you want to call the infinite, yeah? Being still inexperienced and having just made conscious contact with God, it is not probable that we are going to be inspired at all times. Well, maybe it's going to be probable you will after being in contact and doing this for a long time. Yeah? It's not probable if you haven't been doing it, but what happens if you have been doing it? Is it probable at that point that you can be inspired most of the time? Yes. Being still inexperienced and having just made conscious contact with God, it is not probable. So you just came out of the ass of self, yeah? It is not probable that we are going to be inspired at all times. We might pay for this presumption in all sorts of absurd actions and ideas, of course. We've all done them, yeah? Nevertheless, we find that our thinking will, as time passes, be more and more on the plane of inspiration. We come to rely upon it. Exactly. Have you already come to rely upon it? Yes. So for us, it's we came to rely upon it. We're not in the act of coming to rely upon it. We are relying on it. Yes? Yeah. This is directed specifically for people who are entering this way of life. This way of life becomes a way of life. It's not a practiced way of life after a while. It's a lived way of life. Yeah. I do not think about going to a meeting like today. I think about which one, which my sponsee determined by calling me up, which is the noon meeting today. Yeah. I'm in the habit of going to meetings still. Yeah. But the difference is going to be in which one am I going to go to? Yeah. Yeah. Do you see the sense of time being sober? It produces effects that when a lot of these instructions are being given, those effects haven't gotten established yet. Yeah. Just like in the third step where it says, we sincerely take a position, and by sincerely taking the position of something could do for us what we can't do for ourselves, over time we'll be established in that condition, which produces all different effects. Yeah. The position is the same, but sincerely and established produce different effects. So When you're getting sober, it's different when you're in the habit of being sober. Because a lot of the obstacles in the day to stay sober have been surmounted. Yeah. You're in the habit of being sober. It's like you're rolling down the other side of the mountain. It's yes. I don't need an engine to ski down a hill. There's one little booth and there I go. So yeah, it's another thing that there's another thing about the way I read it when I was young is they presented this idea, young in AA, that you could have a higher power of your own understanding, but they imply that's going to change quickly once you start becoming in conscious contact with this power. Yeah. It didn't say you're going to have a higher power of your own understanding for the next 30 years. It's going to transform into having a higher power of its own understanding, because now the higher power is talking to you. You're not talking to it. You're not talking to it through prayer. You're receiving the request. Yes. It doesn't stay just one way. Things grow. Sincerely established, new basis. A new basis. First, what happens? The old basis, whatever remaining aspect of it is there, has to be sort of removed, yes? Or if you called it a foundation, but it's not solid, just calling it a foundation doesn't make it solid. So the program takes that shaky foundation and replaces it with a sound foundation, a new attitude and a new outlook, a new freedom and a new happiness. You're going to live on a completely new basis. Yeah. A whole new foundation. So while that is occurring, basically, you're trying to just keep the patient busy. Yeah. So that this work can be done. And then you wake up and you're on a new basis. Some people who every second were driven by the obsession to drink, when it's removed, they don't even remember the day it was removed because they're too busy living. Yet they were conscious of it all the time, and they get into AA, and that's all they hope for, and they don't even remember what date was it removed because it's removed. Yeah. Knowing it when it was removed, how it was removed isn't important. The importance was it's removed. Yeah. Recovery progresses. It progresses, like it says in this power is going to be constantly revealing stuff to us. Yes, constantly. Constantly could be a month or a day or 30 something years. Constantly doesn't have, it's only constant for a day, it's constantly. So if it's 36 years, something has constantly revealed to you stuff. Yeah, yeah. If it's 36 seconds, something has revealed to you. Yeah. It says constantly revealing. Constantly means at all times, every time. Yeah. So, yeah, this is a very good suggestion. I tried my best for a few years in the beginning. And then things got established, and it was more about enjoying being free from the bondage of self. Yes. And all the hard questions had gotten their answers. I didn't have to go over it and over it again. Yeah. Yeah. If the problem doesn't exist for you, do you want to make it to be the primary topic of your day? If the problem doesn't exist for you, I don't want to be studying it all day. I want to enjoy being relieved of it. That's the point, I feel. And I feel that makes us of maximum use to others. Yeah, I do. Yeah. maybe in the beginning we have to live a regimented way for something that was unmanageable to be managed. But in this program, that unmanageability gets managed. Yeah. Something becomes the dominant basis, and it ain't that thing that's trying to manage everything. It isn't. Yeah. And why would you want to have to get relaxed and chill if you're relaxed and chill already? Yeah. So, yeah.
Thanks, Paul.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
it's an incredible thing. If you're in the beginning of your journey here, speak with somebody you're respecting in the program and go over page 84 and 85. It's the daily way of living so that something can be built. And what's going to be built may not look like how it was built. Yeah. If something was built by diligence and trust and reliance and really working hard, it may not look like that when it appears. Like it says, the problem will not exist for you with no thought or effort on your part. Yeah. So, yeah. What was that old song by that guy, Kenny Rogers? Know when to fold and know when to play them with the cards or something. Know when to hold them or know when. Yeah. I think this is what happens. A large part of the wisdom to know the difference from the serenity prayer is now in your life. Yeah. You know the difference between the what can be changed and what can't be changed. It's pretty cool. Yeah. Yeah. All right. All right, Rich. Thank you.
Thanks, Paul. I think it might have been called the Joker, but if anyone wants to correct me on that, feel free. Um,
Yeah. Oh, the
The
joke.
gambler.
the
The gambler.
Gambler, the Gambler. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Um, yeah, so if anyone's got any questions for Paul or any song requests, yeah, just please raise your hands, your virtual hand, or if not, put a question in the chat and I'll read it out for you. So there's no questions just at the moment. Oh, there we go. James Lebowski. Yeah, if you'd like to unmute yourself, James.
Thanks so much. And thank you, Paul. Yeah, you know, uh, I first got enlightened about this stuff, and then I watched it start to take some effect in my life, or it's really hard to talk about, or the effects of my life stopped taking place so much. Um, but I did notice and realized that I wasn't being lied to. This little sucker self comes around and he plays the thief and he plays the policeman and all those different parts, and it's so beneficial to come and just have the reminder, the of um that I don't need to identify with that, because I'll start thinking that way again. It just happens automatically. I hate to admit it because I should be so much more enlightened by now, but over time I started identifying with my thinking again, and I just need to be reminded, like today. And for whatever it's worth, I remember I was actually in the meeting when the fellow had this deep and effective insight about the third step prayer and the bondage of self, and realized that the bondage of self had been removed, but he was continuing to pray for its removal.
Mm.
And I just remember watching that happen, and I watched it land, and it was it was anyway. Only here would I ever be reminded of it, but
Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
yeah,
No,
it
it was
happened.
great. It was a great little move. Yeah.
And that's all I've got, Paul. Thanks.
Thank you, Jim. Yeah, that was a great moment because it just wasn't him. It was a typical activity of trying to wish and hope to be where you are actually already are. And it's a way of denying the fact you're already there by all the wishing to be there, you know? Yes. The head is a tricky little, but the point is, sometimes you don't need 800 pages of description. Just one little description flips the switch, like that day with that guy. He saw it. Yeah. Just at that moment on the Zoom, he saw that his praying for to be relieved of the bondage of self was reinforcing the idea of being bonded to self. What? He had no idea that was going on. And then he saw it. And then there was a drop in like 10 seconds. It was beautiful. It was almost like a plane, like 22,000 drop into like 100 feet. It was just, yeah. And these are the things they're talking about. You can go into morbidity and all this other stuff. It's tricky, yes? When the solution in the head's view can become part of the problem. I know people that have been going in and out, and it's painful to watch, and they have so much that the solution and the problem have been mixed up, where the solution is part of the problem now. Yeah, and it's difficult to discern. Yeah, yeah. It's tricky. And, going in and out for 15 years and stuff like that, and being introduced to the solution as the problem, the solution has gotten infected in a way. Yeah. Yeah. I came in, I had never heard of AA. I hadn't been there before. I hadn't. I didn't have a lot of opinions about the people. I hadn't met any of them. Yeah, it was like an underground cult. I had no idea what was going on in San Francisco and all these church cellars and shit. And then I just found myself there, but I was being pushed by a big wave of grace. And yeah, I'd never left. So I've been involved. I met it, and I didn't have a breakup with it. And not met it, break up like for 20 years. I was in and I've never been out. So I don't have the experience of it, but by seeing a lot of people that have been in and out and have been to a lot of different rehabs and the whole institutionalness of a problem uh, in the solution, really. You know what I mean? People making money from it and everything like that. Uh, I don't have a personal experience of it, but I have an intimacy by meeting with the people. I can feel it that they think they know the solution and it's part of the problem. Yeah, they think they know AA and they think they know what it's like. And wow, yeah. So this is why when people who've been in and out a lot, you have to say this is not like the last time. This is this time, and really attempt to sort of, because they're not looking at the program of recovery with like new eyes. They've seen it over and over again. And yeah, so yeah.
You ready for another question, Paul?
Yeah, I am. Yep. Nice to see
I,
you, Lebowski. Don't go to the supermarket with that outfit on, but yeah. Especially if you want to cash that 69-cent check. It may not work. Yeah. Get yourself together. uh, who else? Yes. Who was the other question?
Mike M, would you like to unmute
Yeah.
yourself?
Yes.
Wait, is it questions only?
Oh, anything. Share anything.
I just want to say thank you again. I always thought there was way too much thinking going on in that passage that we read. And I was like, wait, why am I thinking about the 24 hours ahead. I don't even know what the fuck I'm doing in 5 minutes from now. And what I'm seeing is like, if I'm bringing this power or this, I don't bring shit. If this power is in all my activities and all my affairs, then I'm just like a taskmaster at this point. I write things down in the calendar that need to be done. I set timers, and it's so much easier that way because all I have to do is really look at a piece of paper as a reminder because I've tried to think about the 24 hours ahead and, oh, this is what I need to do. I'm going to need God here or here, especially going to need God here in traffic. Like it's such a mind fuck. So I appreciate that. And I also have had experiences with not saying the third step prayer anymore because it feels like it started to feel like every time I was saying it, I was like, oh, I'm in the bondage of self. I got to say this prayer. I'm in the bondage of self. I have to say this prayer. So there's a continuance of staying out of that. As long as, like you said, I'm kind of looking at 6 and 7, 8 and 9. These things are coming up. What else did you say? Oh yeah, about the dream. Because if I take a dream seriously, it'll really fuck with my morning. And it's kind of nice to be able to turn out of that with a practice and realize that it's all just a dream for the most part. But I don't know why it seems so much more profound when I wake from it physically. But anyways, that's a lot. But I appreciate you, Paul.
Thank you, Mike. Well, I've the dream is really sometimes you see like the ligament and tendon of the skeleton of your life. Yeah. I find a lot of value because they're not just a mere incident. There's a pattern in it all, and I have no idea of how I got in or get out. So I just bring it to 6 and 7 when I wake up. I had it today. I I came to and it was going over this involuntary inventory, but I figured, hey, I'm going to let it present how bad I was or whatever, and this and that. And then it did a good job. And then I woke up and I immediately said, hey, I'm entirely ready to have this. Here you go, this like 38-page uh, assumption of whatever, and ask it to, be reconfigured. Just give it all, like it says so beautifully. It's a beautiful statement in the world of recycling, the past for the new, which is take all of me, the good and the bad. Yeah. Let you discern the value of what has value and what needs to be reconfigured. Yes, it's a beautiful statement, I feel. And it's a nice way to greet the recycling bin of 6 and 7. So you just put it in there, go about your day. Because the head is perplexed. The head can't figure a lot of shit out, I find. So it's a big road ahead, but it stops about 2 miles in. It can't go any farther. And then it's, wow, what are you going to do then? You don't come out with any discernible answer. So you just give the whole mess over on 6 and 7 and let something else do the 8,000-piece crossword. I mean, puzzle, jigsaw puzzle. Yeah, but it was a doozy last night. It was pretty good. It went over some significant situations and pointed out all the faults I don't like to see. I would never have offered myself to that inventory, never. But it was presented. I came to in the dreaming. What? And then yeah. So yep. Just like in when you're at a 12-step meeting, you can do 6 and 7. When someone shares about alcoholism, it's not just a unique situation in their life. If it triggers a little gut reaction in you, it's a good thing to, hey, what I'm hearing right now, I offer over and let you take care of this shit. Yeah. Yeah. Doesn't 12-step meaning isn't immune to doing the other steps. You can do the steps in the 12-step meaning. 6 and 7 for sure. Hear it a lot. I hear something that hits an echo that I used to listen to quite a lot. I don't anymore, so I can see it. And hey, yeah, I'm entirely ready to have that reconfigured. Yeah, it's awesome. What an awesome way of life. Surrender never really switches from that theme because obviously all the knowledge isn't your knowledge. You surrender it, basically. You get knowledge of self and then you surrender that knowledge through 6 and 7 and shit. Yeah, and all, yeah, it's awesome. It's an awesome way of life. Yeah. And I feel mostly the more that gets revealed is what you're not. Yeah, the alcoholism, the selfing, all that is what gets revealed. Yeah. 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 All right.
You ready for one more question, Paul?
I'm never ready. That's why I'm ready. Go ahead.
Okay, good
Yeah.
stuff. That makes sense.
Yes.
Yeah, Barbara, if you'd like to unmute yourself.
Oh, Barbara.
Hey,
Barbara
Paul.
from Germany.
I'm in the Netherlands right now.
The Netherlands. Oh, all right.
Yeah. And I wanted to say hi and also thank you very much. I don't know that much about the 12 steps actually, but I can talk about reconfiguration because, uh, yeah, as you know, I felt really, really terrible for the last couple of months, really out of my wits. And yeah, I was suffering so much, sleeping very little, and feeling like going crazy a bit. And there was very often like the feeling of dying, really, that was very strong. And then we spoke, it was like 1.5 weeks ago. And somehow that night I felt very terrible again, but there was a little gap created in where I wasn't believing the future that my mind was projecting or that was and I also remembered your story of being reconfigured when you thought you had a medical situation that you could never solve, but somehow it was solved in ways that you didn't foresee, right? With the herbs and acupuncture. And so I was somehow there was an openness and what happened was like my body started breathing really deeply as if I wasn't doing it. And I felt a whole lot of energy move through. And then the next morning when I woke up, I was just kind of fine for the first time in a really long time.
Wow. Wow.
And now I'm still fine and I'm still every day a bit surprised. Like, okay, maybe this is the last day I'm fine, but we'll see. But at
Great.
the moment, yeah,
That's great. Yes.
yeah,
I mean, sometimes you may not like the operation, but you got to stay on the table and just don't play doctor and don't get up.
yeah,
And then things get better. Yeah. It's just one of the uh maybe it could go different ways, but if it's going that way, that's the way it goes. Yeah. And surrender is the key because it's not going to change by your trying to change it. It just doesn't work. Yeah. And then you give up and a possibility you never saw coming shows up and yeah, here you are. But now this can be sort of uh, I always believe to honor the demonstrations of something doing for us what we can't do for ourselves, to honor it because the head will not honor it. It will get to the next thing to worry about. Yeah. You really have to just sit for a second and, yeah, I was feeling really fucked and had nowhere to go, and now I'm not. So what the hell? Yes, let's honor that. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. That's so thank and sharing it is great. I'm so happy, honey. Yeah, it's just because no one can do anything about it while you're going through it in a sense. Yeah. yeah, maybe like I like the term holding the space. Yeah. So you can just hold the space for that person to go through uncomfortable times. And it's great when the person does and shares the success of facing life. This is a demonstration of facing life successfully. Yeah. Yeah. Fantastic. Hallelujah. Yeah, it's awesome. And you can talk to your blue in the face to someone unless they get it themselves. Yeah. And this is the joy, like when in AA, we're in AA at times, and somebody. And then this happened with my nephew, and he's been troubled by uh, manic depression and drug addiction, alcohol and drugs for a long, long time. And so one day, he called me and he had gone to a meeting and he shared, and what he shared was he got something at that meeting. And it was like, wow, that's fantastic. Now it got smothered a couple of months later, but at least he had some time to breathe and really get introduced to a solution. Now his head worked very hard to forget it, but he had that taste, and I could tell he had the taste on the phone. I was so stoked because I thought this may gain momentum, but it did for a year, but then he went back out. So it's great. Yeah. Thank you, Barbara. You're beaming. It's very nice. I saw you as a little 200-watt light bulb over there in the Netherlands. You're lighting up the whole room from the Netherlands. Yes, not bad.
Thank you, Paul.
You're welcome. Yeah, very much. All right.
Okay. Thanks, Barbara. I found that really inspiring. And I'm sure others did as well. Paul, there's no more questions at the moment.
Well,
So
maybe we'll say goodbye early because I'm going to go to a meeting today. I want to. Yeah, it's good if I get there on time. That's a difficult thing for me. So yeah. But so let me just say goodbye. Everyone's okay. Yeah, it was great. Yes, fantastic. Roman must be very excited, happy. Michael, Stacy, as always. Yeah. Axel, Sean, Minnesota. Yeah. Rich, San Diego, Steve, Mickey, the matriarch of Madeira, Miak. Miak made some incredible biscotti. I've got a lot of biscotti security right now. Yeah, I'm looking at it at the moment. It's a giant tower of biscotti. All right, James Lebowski. Yeah, if you need that half and half, bro, I'll send you the money. Yeah, don't hesitate. Kathleen. Nice to see you, honey. I'll be seeing you soon live, coming over to the West Coast. Terry, nice to see you, Terry. Danny M. There you are. Roman, Mueller, John, Florida, Joseph in France, Heather, my magician slash witch slash something. I don't know. We'll see. No. We got Miss Volkman. Yeah. Lee in the UK. Nice to see you, Lee. Nice to meet you. Sean, as always. See you. Stephen T. Mike M. Fletch. Paula. Mark R. Let me see who else is here. We've got a phone number. I think I got everybody. Hey, thanks everyone. Thanks, Barbara, for sharing. Thank you very much. It's inspiring. Everyone, thank you. Yes. See you
Thanks, Paul.
soon. We'll be here Saturday.